Nature has made all man equal. God has made no man slave. These are the words of some of the sophists. But in Greek society, people believe in the concept of slavery and they justify it also. Today, in the series of Western political thought, we will be talking about Aristotle's theory of slavery. I am Ranjit Kaur, Head Department of Humanities at the Bhopal School of Social Sciences. Let's see what's there on the agenda today. Today, we will be dealing with the introduction of Aristotle's theory of slavery, who is a slave, types of slavery, Aristotle's justification of slavery, approval of slavery under certain conditions, criticism, and the conclusion. Introducing the concept of slavery, Greece adopted the practice of slavery as a fundamental part of their ancient civilization. Most of the thinkers adopted the concept of slavery as it was. They thought if the system of slavery is being removed, it will disturb whole society. So Aristotle accepted the slavery in its entire composition, but he was emotionally attached to slaves. So he also talked about the emancipation of slavery. He thought that the economic condition of the country would be in danger if the slaves were freed. That is why he preferred slavery as a part of social system. Aristotle integrated the practice of slavery with the lifestyle of the Greeks. The question arises, who is a slave? So Aristotle defines the concept of slavery as anyone who, while being human, is by nature not his own but of someone else. Further, he states, he is someone else when while being human. That means a person who is not his own man but of another is a slave. That means a person who cannot take decisions by his own, who cannot use his wisdom, who do not use his willpower, definitely is a slave. Then he says he is a piece of property. While discussing about his theory of property, we did that Aristotle says there are two types of property, animate and inanimate. So he puts slaves as the part of animate property, those who are the property of action. And so he says that it is a tool of action separate from owner, and that is why he justifies slavery and considers it as a tool for action, a part of property. Further, Aristotle classifies slavery into two categories. First one are the natural slaves, second one are slaves by law or legal slaves. Slaves, those who are being the prisoners of wars, those who are being annexed by war, they are considered to be slaves by law. Aristotle says that they are non-taxpayers, they are foreigners and are indulged in illegal activities. So you have to be very careful as far as the slaves by laws are concerned. So he suggested that these persons should be sold as soon as possible. Why? Because they are dangerous to the state where they are living in. Whereas on the other hand, slavery by nature is the ones which are being made as a slave by nature. He says we need to try to understand the message of the nature. What does nature says? Nature says that those people who are physically stronger, they are meant for physical work. Whereas the people who are mentally stronger, they are meant to be masters. So that's the reason where nature has ordained that the superior should rule over the inferior. Aristotle tries to justify the concept of slavery on three grounds. Firstly, he says it is natural. Secondly, it is useful. And third one on the grounds of expediency. Now, what is natural? According to Aristotle, man by nature unequal with respect to the capacities of virtue. Some people have virtues like wisdom, generosity, intellectual knowledge and they have a mental capacity. Whereas some people who are superior through their physical strength, but they do not have these virtues. So those who have virtues in predominance should rule over the ones who do not possess. Secondly, he says slavery is a natural phenomena. As I already stated, that nature ordains that the superior should rule over the inferior. So Aristotle says that like a soul over the body, reason over appetite, male over female, and parents over their children. Similarly, the superior or the master should rule over slaves. Thirdly, Aristotle considers family as a social unit. While talking about family, Aristotle says it's a triangular relation. One is of husband and wife, second is master and the slave, and third is the parent and the children. So slaves are the part of family, so they are the social system. Second justification, he says that it is useful. How it is useful? He says slaves are considered necessary because they provide leisure, which is a most important thing for the welfare of the state. If you remember, we did a master who has leisure is only a citizen, and a citizen in his free time can do the judicial and deliberative efforts of the state. So he is involved in the works of the state, and on the other hand, if a person has leisure, it also helps him to enhance its virtues, and the slaves providing the master with leisure. So they are useful for master. Aristotle says that slavery benefits slaves as well. How are they benefiting the slaves? Because a slave will be living with a master who possesses virtues. So automatically, while living and working with a master, there are chances that slave also learns certain virtues, and that is why it is benefited for slaves as well. Third one is, just as everything in this world has its own specific functions, similarly, nature has also endowed people with their specific function. Mentally stronger, that means the work of a master. The person who has wisdom is superior. The person who has physical strength is inferior and he is involved in physical labor. Finally, it is also useful to slave because it secures best condition for the slave. A slave who cannot earn his livelihood, cannot live, cannot eat, automatically gets a house, gets a family and gets meal to eat. So definitely it is useful for a slave. He is able to lead a good life in the presence of his master. And finally, Aristotle justifies slavery on the grounds of expediency. What does Aristotle say? He says that slaves have sustained Greek social system and economic system. If there is no mechanic class, no labor class, no workers, then who is going to work for the society? Who is going to produce? Growth and development is not possible in the absence of the labor class. And that is why he says that it is essential, and that is they have helped in maintaining the social and economic system of Greek society. Otherwise, there will be disorder, there will be chaos. Second, he says that slavery is social necessity. Unless and until the master is being made free or the master gets leisure, he will not be able to look after the legislative and the administrative affairs of the state. So, it is a need of the society that there are two categories of people, master and the slave, and the work is being divided between them. It is complementary to the slaves as well as master, and it aids in perfection. A master can work perfectly in the presence of slave, as well as slave can grow, and even there are chances of the slave to emancipate himself, to set himself free if he learns virtue or if he becomes intellectual. Further, Aristotle tries to approve slavery under certain conditions. Let us look at what are those conditions. Aristotle says that there is a clear-cut distinction between the slaves by nature and slaves by law, which is already stated earlier. So, he disapproves slavery by law. Why he disapproves slavery by law? Because the people, those who are being conquered by war, may be intelligent. Only thing is that they were being conquered, and that is why they were being made as slave. Whereas they may be equally intelligent and they might not be slave by nature. Secondly, he says, state should see that slaves are properly treated by the master. As said, Aristotle has emotional connections with slaves. Though his master Plato does not believe in the concept and he remains silent about it. Whereas Aristotle was much more practical than idealistic. And so he believed that states are essential for the economic development of the society, but he also says that the master should take care of slaves and they should be treated properly. And if the slaves are not being treated properly, the master should be meted out punishment. All slaves should be given the hope and chance of emancipation. His concept of slavery does not talk about that a slave will remain permanent slave. There are people who also have intellectual capacity, whereas they can develop intellectual capacity with living with an eminent person, and the person who is intelligent, who is virtuous, and when the slave will work along with the master, automatically he'll learn the virtues and there are chances that he may become master in future. Slavery was essential for all-round development, but the master has no right to misuse his power. He says you should keep in mind the slaves are assistants, not the subordinates. Slaves are only helping the master in fulfilling his day-to-day activities or his household chores. They are not subordinates. Coming up to the last part of the theory, criticism. Aristotle's concept of slavery was being criticized on many grounds. First one, slavery may be natural, but we do not live in nature. Some of the critics says nature might have made man unequal, but we are not living in the state of nature. We are living in the 21st century where the concept like slavery does not exist. Aristotle's views of slavery were born of his radical prejudice. He considered all non-Greeks as barbarian. He would support the enslavement of Persians but not of Greeks, so he was biased. His views regarding slavery go against his functional conception. He says that people are being designed to do physical work and the mental work. So that is also being different. Slavery goes against the modern concept of freedom and equality. In today's world, people believe in freedom and equality of all. We are living in the 21st century where there is no injustice being done to the individuals. In contemporary time, every person ought to treat with respect. Human dignity cannot be compromised. We cannot divide people into such kind of classes, slaves and non-slaves. Each and every individual is respectful. No person's dignity can be compromised. Many people misuse this theory to exploit slaves. If we justify slavery, there are chances that they will be exploited. Finally, we can conclude by saying Aristotle was a typical Greek and he was not interested in making any slight modification in what was happening at that time in Greeks. Whereas his concept of slavery is not appealing to a man living in 21st century. So he has given his concept and he tries to justify his concept of slavery. Thank you.